Well, I am so excited for this conversation. I'm going to introduce Cheryl Epps, who is a longtime colleague of mine and actually my sister. She's my sister. We've
Yeah.
known each other for years, worked together with Mediators Beyond Borders first. Cheryl was an early person with the Los Angeles City Attorneys. Well, Los Angeles City Attorney's Dispute Resolution Program and Community Police Unification Program, and actually introduced me to both of those things. And now we're both workplace mediators and work in workplace conflict management. Cheryl's done a lot more than that. She's famous, so you probably already know her. She's wonderful. She's a very ethical mediator, and for me, she's certainly one of those people where I feel like iron sharpens iron. Surprising to me when my best conflict conversation cards came out, Cheryl ordered a pack, and I was so touched because when someone you love and respect is supporting something you're doing, it's just a powerful experience. Having said that, Cheryl is the friend who would tell me these things stink if indeed they stunk. And tell me instead, Cheryl, what your experience was with those.
First of all, you're too kind. And the reason why I ran to put those cards in my cart was because I knew that if you put your heart and soul into something, a product like this, I knew it was going to be of great quality because I already know the integrity that you have and I know what you bring to this work. And I know the impact that you've already made on countless people that you cross paths with while doing this work. So it was an easy put it in my cart. It was one of those here, take my money, and that was before I even went through all of the cards. Have had a chance to go through all of them. And particularly, there were a few that stood out when I was actually doing a recent workplace mediation, and found that they either were something helpful that I could take into the workplace mediation, or it was something that affirmed the work that I was currently doing with regards to that situation. So I'm happy to tell you about it if you want to,
Yeah, share
if I
share how
may.
you use the cards. That'd be great.
Yes, yes, yes. So one of your cards talked about separating person from the problem. And that was applicable in this situation because the two parties were just so on opposite sides that they had started making assumptions about each other's character and assuming intent, bad intent. So why a person said something, what did they really mean? They weren't having the conversation, but they were making the person the problem instead of isolating what the problem was from the person. And so although it took several hours to get there, we were finally able to get there so that they could look at the fact that, oh, okay, um, my new duties have not been clearly defined. That's not because he's a bad person. It's just the duties aren't defined. Or I'm supposed to have a new performance eval and it hasn't happened in a while. That doesn't make them a bad person. It just hasn't happened. So keeping the problem separated from the person. The story I'm telling myself, I think I remember seeing that one of the cards too. And that one struck me because that's something that we just do in life, right? With the people, uh, we see something. If someone doesn't say good morning to us, we're like, huh, I wonder why they're not saying good morning. And we come up with our own narrative. Well, the same thing happens in the workplace because if for whatever reason you're not picked to be that team lead, or if for whatever reason you're the suggestion that you offered up that they don't accept that and they go with something else, you start coming up with your own narrative, telling your own story. And the story that you're telling yourself is usually wrong. It's usually not accurate because it's fed by your previous experiences, maybe at other jobs that you've had or different coworkers that you worked with before. You bring all of that to your current situation and you start coming up with this narrative. Could be a blockbuster movie, but not appropriate for the workplace, right? Um, One of the other ones that struck me was taking a beat. And this was actually one of the agreements that we finally came to. It was one of the identified agreements was to take a beat. And each party agreed that before they went charging in to say something to the other person um, on 10, to take a beat. And that meant 24 hours. 24 hours before I will approach you, 24 hours before I will email you, 24 hours before I will call you, so that I take a minute to take a beat and settle yourself and regulate yourself, and then figure out the best course of action to connect with that person, especially if you already have some history where things haven't gone well. And both parties agreed to do that. So those are just a few examples of, and there were many. There are certainly others that I believe should become part of your regular unit meetings. When I'm retired from LA County, as you know, worked for a department, a child welfare department for many, many years. And a good bulk of that time, I managed a team of trainers. And so oftentimes we would try to come up with different things to do during our unit meetings to kind of build our team, build our connection together. And these are perfect exercises for that. Let's say you take two of the cards, and you do the exercises. You go over the 80-20 rule about how much you're putting in emotionally, that emotional bank account. Um, Listening. What did you hear? What did the other person say? That was a struggle. That was another strategy that I often use, that I was so pleased to see reflected here, where having the other person say what the other person said, whether they believe it or not, whether they agree or not. What did you hear them say? But they want to explain. They want to respond instead of reflecting exactly what they heard. And that's a strategy that I think should be used across the board anywhere. We even use that. I've used it sometimes with peer mediation with kids, because they want to be quick to explain too. So yes, I would suggest for any professional organization, anytime that you have to work with people, anytime anyone is getting a check for a service and they're all together, whether it's virtual or in person, I think that these cards would be very helpful to take a couple. Hey, let's do this exercise today. Hey, let's do that exercise. Well, what did you get from that? And tell me your thoughts about this. And I think it's great for team building. I think it's great for building trust. I think it's great for putting tools in your toolbox that you can take out into the world. Um, it's the possibilities are endless, and it's something as simple as a deck of cards. Who would have thought, right? You found something, and it's so cute. I don't know why I wasn't prepared and have them here, but they're close by. And actually I bought several because I believe in them that much, and I will either, if I can convince myself to gift them to an organization, I might do that. But they're hard to part with because I always want to keep a set here with me at home, and I keep a set that I travel with. So I think that they're they're just cute. I wish I don't know if you even have a pet close by, but the case, and they're all enclosed, and you can literally just put them in your purse and take them wherever. So kudos for doing that. I love packaging. Those kind of things just really get me going, but I absolutely love them. And I
And I
would
tell you,
highly recommend them to anyone.
when you create something, you're putting out something that's meaningful to you that you hope will be meaningful and helpful to someone else. And the
Yes.
bar for that is the people that matter the most to you, that you hold in the highest esteem. So to get that feedback from you just meant a lot because your description of the purpose of them, that's what I hope for. There are 30 skills cards, 30. That's a lot of skills, and
Yeah.
my son who's in business is like, oh, it's like reading a book. And I'm like, I'd read a book and maybe remember one skill. It's not like reading a book. It's like you can practice one card, build one skill, and then move to another one. And when you think about our journey as mediators and dispute resolution practitioners, it is a matter of practicing. It's not like, oh, you get all these things in a 40-hour training or a book and then you remember them all. It's the ability to have them. I want to tell you real quick, Cheryl, a story of another person who used them in a workplace. And there's the 30 skills card and then there's 20 story cards, and those are the actual connection cards. So they're about remembering times when something went well or remembering times when we came together. And she was actually mediating two groups who had to make a decision, then they were on polar ends of that. And she led with the story cards. Let's talk about a time when. And she said, and then it's like, okay, now we have this decision to make. And she's like, they're just leaning all the way in instead
Yes.
of let's start with where we disagree and try to come
Right.
into agreement. And I'm like, okay, I didn't think of that, but that's brilliant.
Yes. That's a
Yeah.
great idea. It's
Yeah,
all
it is.
about building the connection. If you can connect with someone, especially in the workplace, if you can connect with someone, that makes the difficult stuff a lot easier to work with. You know, whether it's staying late or whether it's having to put in extra effort on a particular project, if you have the connection, you're more apt to say, okay, I don't mind sticking it in, with us together as a team and getting through whatever this particular difficult thing is. But you have to have connection, and I definitely see how the cards definitely bring that out.
Well, I want to thank you so much, and thank you for being you and for
Oh,
sharing your time and sharing your experience and for being the person who's bought the most boxes of cards because Cheryl did come back and say, I want more.
I
And I was
want
like,
more.
oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for creating them, and thank you for making it easy for people like me to do the work that we do. Thank you for just your endless service for this field. I appreciate you.